to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger in accordance with Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Further, in accordance with NJSA 10:4-6-21, a copy of this notice was posted outside the Secretary's office, and a copy was also filed with the Clerk of the Borough of Cerebral. Please rise for the pledge to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. DeAndrea, roll call.
Mr. Balker.
Here.
Mrs. Bacco.
Here.
Mrs. Bloom.
Here.
Mr. Brzezinski.
Here.
Mrs. DePinto.
Here.
Mr. McEnone.
Present.
Mrs. Trapp.
Here.
Mr. Walsh.
Here.
And Mr. Sire.
Here. Okay, we have a few presentations this evening. Before we get to those, Mr. DeAndrea, can you just summarize what we discussed in executive?
This evening in executive, we discussed personnel included but not limited to the agenda items and negotiations to Sillover School field lease.
Okay, thank you. Our first presentation up are the teachers and ESPs of the year. And the Cerebral teachers and educational support professionals have always been the best. But today we pause and we recognize those selected among their peers as the best of the best. And for those of you who may not be familiar with how the process works to become a teacher or an ESP of the year, teachers and ESPs in the district and administrators as well are permitted every single year in the beginning of the calendar year to nominate those that they feel are worthy of the honor and to write a basically almost a two-page summary describing why those particular individuals exemplify the Teacher of the Year or ESP of the Year status. Once those nominations are received, they are scrubbed and the names are removed from the nominations so that we don't know who the individuals are, and it's purely based upon the write-up that is there and the content of what they've contributed to the education profession. And a committee consisting of teachers, consisting of Board of Education members and administrators, meets, reviews all of the criteria, and reviews the submissions, and then selects those individuals anonymously. And it's only after the selection is made that we find out who those individuals are. So before I call up board members to recognize each one of the individuals and give some background about them, Dr. Labby, as superintendent, would you like to add some congratulations to your staff?
On behalf of the Central Administration, we would just like to extend our congratulations and let all of our Teachers of the Year and Educational Support Professionals of the Year from last year know how proud we are of them and how truly appreciative we are for the example that they set for all of us. So thank you so much to all of our teachers, particularly our Teachers of the Year and our Educational Support Professionals of the Year.
Thank you, Dr. Labby. Okay, we're going to begin with the high school, and each board member has been assigned certain individuals. I would also ask that when the board member present the award that they go to the podium so that they can be photographed. We'll call the teacher or ESP of the year up who's receiving the award. And also, if their building principal or vice principal is in the office, is in the cafeteria, if you would also come up as well so that you can be there to be recognized with your teacher or ESP. So we'll begin with the high school. Mrs. Trapp.
Mrs. Janet Skodinsky. It is a privilege to offer this award to you. Thank you. You've earned it so much. My daughter had Mrs. Skodinsky, and so did my son. And my daughter still talks so well about it. Mrs. Skodinsky is the consummate professional. She is a model of professionalism with a positive work ethic and a true love for her students. She has no nonsense approach and high expectations for all of her students in her AP English classes. Once again, for the 2013-14 school year, her success rate was with the 12th grade AP students could be model for teachers throughout the state. She has been an integral part of the Language Arts Department at the high school and will always be considered a colleague and friend to the people at the Sayreville War Memorial High School. Congratulations. The ESP Campus Monitor, Michelle Siprich. Ms. Michelle Siprich has been a security person at the Sayreville War Memorial High School for the past 10 years. She has developed a positive rapport with students, staff, and administration because of her friendly personality and her willingness to help children. Michelle rounds out a team of 3 individuals that work diligently every day to maintain a safe and orderly environment at the high school. Thank you.
Mr. McEnone will present the Middle School Teacher of the Year and ESP of the Year.
Well, I have the distinct honor of recognizing the Middle School Teacher of the Year, Miss Melissa Zampa. Is she here? Miss Donna Jakubik, Principal. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to these adjectives. Dynamic, creative, intelligent, caring, and compassionate are words that describe Miss Melissa Zampa. She has been a special education teacher at Sayreville War Memorial Middle School for 15 years. Forget where I am. For the past several years, Ms. Zampa has taught in the middle school program for multiple disabled students. Ms. Zampa has structured her classroom in such a way to optimally address the unique learning and physical and behavioral needs of each student. She designs instructional activities that are highly creative and applicable to the real world and consistently utilizes varied and diversified authentic assessments with a cross-curricular emphasis to evaluate student performance. As a result of Ms. Zampa's planning, preparation, and implementation of a student-centered learning environment, the academic, social, and emotional growth of her students is dramatic. Ladies and gentlemen, Melissa Zampa. The ESP of the year from the middle school is the secretary, Mrs. Susan Major. I don't know if she is here this evening. She's not? Okay. Well, I'll read the narrative. Mrs. Susan Major has consistently demonstrated herself to be a responsible and conscientious staff member. As office manager of the Sayreville Middle School, Mrs. Major performs a vital and integral role towards the smooth operation of the school on a daily basis. Her support services to the teachers, administrators, and school community at large and coordination of the countless tasks and responsibilities throughout the school year is very much appreciated and duly noted. In closing, Mrs. Major's reliability, dedication, and sense of humor are truly assets to the middle school. Congratulations to Mrs. Major.
And Mr. John Walsh will present the recipients from Sampsonville Upper Elementary School.
Nice job.
This is fun stuff.
Okay, it is my honor to award the Teacher of the Year for the Sampsonville Upper Elementary School to Liliana Marcoux. Come on up, Liliana. She's here. Yeah, okay. Miss Liliana Marcoux is a passionate individual who strives to do her best and instills in her students. Miss Marcoux develops feelings of self-worth and a love of learning in all of her students. She's engaging and animated, and students eagerly complete work and participate as she pushes them towards greatness. No matter the academic history of her students know they can achieve what they set their minds to and do so because of her teaching methods, her support, and her encouragement. At the end of each year, Liliana reaches out to each one of her students' parents, thanking them for the gift of their child and the opportunity to teach them. Ms. Marcoux is a gift to the profession, to the teachers she works with, but most importantly to the children that she cares for so deeply as she pushes them towards excellence. She is a positive force in the school, a teacher who starts each day with a smile, who truly cares for each individual student, and a teacher who works with others in an attempt to provide the best education for her students. She is a teacher through every fiber of her being, and the Samsel Upper Elementary School is extremely fortunate to have Ms. Marcoux as a member of our staff. Liliana Marcoux. And the paraprofessional for the Samsel Elementary School, Project Before, which is very special to my heart, is Kerry Andrews. The striking characteristic of Kerry Andrews is that she's always working with joy. Besides being so pleasant and patient with the class of preschool disabled children of Miss Alice Potensky's class, Kerry attends to the smallest detail of the children, lives with attention and dedication. The 3- and 4-year-olds love her, for she exudes of them that life is wonderful and they can accomplish anything if they just keep trying, and they're kind to all. Project Before is indeed blessed to have Mrs. Andrews working with our children and my children.
Moving on to Wilson, Mr. Brzezinski will recognize the honorees.
Our Wilson School Elementary Teacher of the Year is Mrs. Kerry DiStefano. Mrs. Kerry DiStefano exhibits all the qualities of an excellent teacher. She has been teaching for 8 years. Her classroom is one that models caring, fairness, courtesy, and respect. Kerry is a self-reflective practitioner, engages in ongoing professional development, and embraces the practices of a lifelong learner. Her focus is consistently student learning, and for that reason, we congratulate Kerry DiStefano. Our next is our ESP social worker, Mrs. Cecily Kong. Mrs. Cecily Kong is a dedicated member of the Sayreville Public School District. Her position as social worker has served Wilson School so well. Cecily maintains a professional demeanor at all times. She respects and maintains confidentiality and empowers each of the students and families in her care to meet their challenges and develop a love of learning. She is committed to the INRS team and develops strong partnerships with the Wilson School community. For these reasons, we congratulate her and wish her many more successful years as a social worker in our district.
And Mrs. Bloom will recognize the honorees from Truman School.
From Truman School, the Teacher of the Year is Lisa Haynes. Mrs. Lisa Haynes has enthusiastically taught third grade for 13 years in the Sayreville Public School District at Harry S. Truman School. She is a gifted and talented teacher who provides an abundance of rich educational experiences to develop her third grade students' skills and interest in learning. When one enters her classroom, one never knows what to expect. That is, she may be dressed up in a costume or donning a wig such as Harry Potter or Alex Trebek, teaching a song or dancing in order to encourage and engage her students in learning. She challenges her brightest students to new levels and encourages her struggling students to feel success. Lisa prides herself in setting high expectations for her pupils and makes a difference and positive impact on each youngster that enters her classroom. She does so by embracing each child, determining his or her strengths and weaknesses, likes and dislikes, and treating each with respect and kindness. In closing, Mrs. Haynes brings life to the subject matter as a result of her creative and artful teaching style. Congratulations to a person most deserving of this great honor. And next, we honor the ESP paraprofessional from Truman School, Joellen Masterson. Mrs. Joellen Masterson has done an outstanding job in her role as a paraprofessional, working in inclusion classes and self-contained special education for 7 years in the Sayreville Public School District at the Harry S. Truman School. Dependability, dedication, and competence are the hallmarks of the manner in which she performs her job. The Truman students respect, appreciate, and adore her because they know Mrs. Masterson has their best interests at heart from the manner in which she performs her responsibilities. Her passion for her profession has earned her the respect and admiration of all who have had the pleasure of interacting or working with her. Joellen's students' support and devotion are greatly appreciated, and her services make a difference in regard to the success of Truman School. She is most deserving of this honorable award.
And Mrs. Bacco will recognize the honorees from Eisenhower School.
Eisenhower School Teacher of the Year is Ms. Dina Silvestri. Well, she can't be with us tonight. I'll just tell you a little bit about her. Ms. Silvestri attended the College of Staten Island for both her bachelor's and master's degree. She is certified to teach as an elementary school teacher in New York and New Jersey. Dina taught for 6.5 years in New York and then 13 years in New Jersey. New Jersey and Sayreville are lucky to have her. One of the things that makes Ms. Silvestri such an asset to Eisenhower is the level of very high standards for all students in her kindergarten class. She expects them to succeed and makes certain that her class contains an ample number of varied ways the students can achieve success throughout the day. The ESP paraprofessional from Eisenhower is Ms. Jolly Das. She is. When looking for someone who is going to make a lifelong connection with a student, there is no need to look further than Jolly Das. Ms. Das is a paraprofessional in the Eisenhower Behavioral Disability Classroom. She has the innate ability to connect with students on a level that other adults simply are not able to. There is nothing greater than walking into a classroom and immediately seeing the impact one person can have on a room full of students. As students arrive to school with a somber look on their face, she is able to find a way to turn that frown into a smile. I would believe that if you asked Ms. Das who won this award, she would not say that it was Ms. Das. She would say it was the students in the classroom because she is the type of person who believes the impact they leave on her is greater than the impact she could ever leave on them. It is our pleasure to congratulate Ms. Jolly Das as the 2014 Eisenhower School ESP of the Year.
Mrs. DePinto will honor the Arlett School honorees.
Arleth Elementary's Educational Professional of the Year is the nurse, Ms. Judith Berg-Friel. Ms. Friel is an example of a true exceptional educational support professional. As the school nurse, she cares for hundreds of students each year, but her impact reaches far beyond the walls of the nurse's office. Judy helped organize a walking club to promote health and well-being for the staff and students of Arleth Elementary School and to encourage a healthy lifestyle. She contributes to professional development by offering CPR and EpiPen training throughout the district. Mrs. Berg-Friel also helps raise money for worthwhile causes. Last year, she was able to raise $1,700 for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. She also collected food and money to provide needy families with Thanksgiving dinner. Judith is a true asset to the Sayreville community. Congratulations. Arlett School's ESP paraprofessional this year is Miss Virginia Zamet. Ms. Zamet is a model for all educational support personnel. She goes far beyond her job description and is always willing to do more. She not only helps the students in the classroom, but she is happy to lend a hand wherever she is needed in the school community. Whether it is helping set up the classroom before school starts, greeting parents with a friendly smile, or offering to help a few colleagues, Virginia can always be counted on. She goes above and beyond each day and gives love to our students as if they were her own. Congratulations, Ms.
And Mr. Balco will recognize the Slover School ESP of the Year.
Hi. Slover's ESP Secretary of the Year is Lori Schultes. I actually graduated Lori from Sayreville High and always remember Lori's smile. I believe her motto in life is, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, and Lori has been given more than her share of lemons, and she keeps on making the lemonade. Ms. Lori Schultes has worked for the Sayreville School District for the past 21 years. The first 10 years of her employment, she worked as an accounts payable. She worked in the accounts payable department. In the last 11 years, she worked as junior bookkeeper / administrative assistant for the food services department. Ms. Schultes is a very hardworking individual. She diligently completes all her job assignments and is extremely well organized. She has an excellent rapport with all her district staff and fellow coworkers. Lori handles herself in a professional manner, maintaining the highest standards of ethics and integrity in all areas of her job responsibilities. She is truly an asset to the food services department and to the Sayreville School District. Congratulations to Lori for being selected ESP for the year for Slover School.
And the final honoree for tonight, I don't believe is here, but they're from the Transportation Department, Miss Kathleen Kunzman. Mrs. Kathleen Kunzman has been a bus driver for the Sayreville School District for 34 years and counting. As a matter of fact, she was my bus driver. Mrs. Kunzman welcomes the students each morning with her big smile and always makes the new students comfortable to be on the bus. Kathy also spends time driving for the BIC program in Sayreville, who have come to know her as someone that they can truly trust and count on. The Sayreville School District is proud to employ a bus driver with the heart and caring that Mrs. Kathy Kunzman presents on a daily basis, and proud to have her as one of their educational support professionals. Congratulations to Kathy. I would like to congratulate all of the honorees here tonight. Every teacher in our district and every ESP in our district and every administrator in our district is a role model to our students. But as you can tell from the applause in the audience and the support that your colleagues are giving you as you are honored here tonight, you're not only a role model to your students or the students in your school, but you're also a role model to the other teachers and other educational support professionals in your building. And that makes you, by default, then a role model for every student in our district. So we truly appreciate your efforts. We appreciate your time in Sayreville. And I think it's appropriate that we give all of you at this time a standing ovation. Okay, we have another presentation this evening. We've recognized the Teachers and ESPs of the Year. We're now going to move on to the Perfect Attendance Awards, those individuals who consistently show up every day, whether they're healthy or not, but they are committed to our students and committed to being here for our students and committed to continuity of instruction. So I'm going to ask Mrs. DePinto to come up with me. We can present the awards along with Dr. Labby, our superintendent. So recognizing those for 1 year perfect attendance, and just come up as I call your name, Mr. Timothy Byrne. Mr. Paul DeLoya. Ms. Andrea Eberhardt. Ms. Kaylee Giovenco. Mr. Joseph Kaczynski. Mr. Robert Hoffman. Mr. David Naster. Ms. Caitlin Krainski. Ms. Christine Lawler. Mr. Andrew Najar. Mr. Robert Preston. Ms. Robin Reed. Ms. Laura Remo. She was absent. Ms. Angela Scarpa. Ms. Robin Shork. Ms. Julia Switzer. Ms. Jean Scudney. Mr. John Velichka. Now, and we'll congratulate all of our one-year honorees. You might have to All right, now 1 year is very impressive, but now we move on to 2 consecutive years of perfect attendance. Ms. Liliana Marcoux. We appreciate that. Yeah. And Mr. Ed McCann. See you? He's not here. He's not here. Okay. Yep. Moving on to 3 consecutive years of perfect attendance. Mr. Patsy Palma. And Dr. Marilyn Shediak. It starts at the top, ladies and gentlemen. We have one individual with 4 years perfect attendance. Ms. Amanda Kutcher. Moving on to 6 years perfect attendance. Ms. Stacy Marr. And finally, with 7 years perfect attendance, and I just want you to know, A, he does not keep the attendance, and B, it means physically, not necessarily, well, we won't go there, Mr. Emidio D'Adria. Okay, and once again, congratulations to all of our perfect attendance honorees. We appreciate you being there every day for our students. Do any board members wish to make any other comments regarding the presentations before we move on?
I would just like to make a quick comment, or not so quick. I just, you can't thank and congratulate the teachers enough. It's not an easy time to be a teacher. I know the PR being a teacher is not great. They don't get it in for the adulation. But it's important to me that you know how much we value you. And I know as someone who entrusts their kids to people who were awarded tonight, someone who has worked with a lot of people here, I'll put you up against anyone. I think our staff here is excellent. I know how dedicated you are, how hard you work. And I just want to mention one person real fast. It was the spring of 1993. I was a senior here at Sayreville High School. So was Kevin. My English teacher was moved, left the school, and Miss Skordinski was brought in our class. Now, we were seniors. We all picked our colleges already. We all had A's. It was not an easy situation to come into. We were good kids, but we were set. We knew where we were going. And what she taught us in half a year and how she kind of roped us in, I'll never forget. It made all the difference in my college career. I know when I went to college. I don't know if I could write a paper before that. Yeah, I mean, I could, but not as well as I did there. And I just want to thank you specifically. What a great teacher and everyone here. Like I said, I got the chance to work with a lot of you guys, and just thank you and congratulations again.
Mr. McEnroe?
Yes, I echo that. To be a teacher today, you have to realize the United States of America, we're a superpower, but if we ever fall, it's going to fall from within because we fail to academically educate and character development our young people. And if you're a teacher going into our public schools in this country in 2014, you're on the front lines of defense. You're in the trenches because that's where the battle will be lost. And I applaud you for doing that. It's a noble profession. And if you think about it, if you're a teacher, thousands of people are going to remember you. If you're not a teacher, you may be lucky you'll get 4 or 5 people remember you. But if you're a teacher, I remember my teachers from way back, especially Sister Mary Arlene, but for other reasons. But I want to congratulate all of you and echo what my colleagues have said. All 3 of my daughters are educated here in Sayreville, and they're all successful, all went to college. And I remember one time when my daughter was studying in a biochemistry class at Rutgers, and I looked at the book and I said, "Do you understand that?" She said, I learned it in high school, and I know Mrs. Bill was a big influence on her in biology. So that's why I'm on the Board of Education. I'm not here to cut ribbons and go to open, to Little Leagues. It's because of the value of the educations that my children got. Now it's my time to pay back and to make sure that the Sayreville School District stays that way. So again, congratulations to all those that have been recognized this evening.
Any other board members? Mrs. Bloom?
I have to say something, having been on the other side of the table for a very long time. And probably you don't know this, but I was not a product of public schools. I struggled through 12 years of Catholic schools. 12 years, folks. I went to a public college, though, and quickly learned the value of a free public education, because in New York City, if you were a resident of any one of the 5 boroughs back, I won't tell you when, you got to go for free if you maintained an average above 85. So I got to go to Hunter College in Manhattan for free. I only had to pay for my books and my art supplies. And when I started teaching, again, I reverted back. I taught at my old high school in Brooklyn. I taught at 2 Catholic high schools in Brooklyn, and I taught with Miss Skordinski at St. Mary's in South Amboy. And then I stayed home and raised my children for a long, long time. When I came back into teaching, I was 49 years old. And I came into this building, and I stayed here for almost 20 years. And I loved every minute of it, and I love all of these people who dedicate themselves to the children, because we're here because we love it. And I was here because I loved it, and now I'm here to help you. So congratulations to you. It's not about me, it's about you.
Anyone else? Okay, just finally in closing, most importantly, thank you for doing what you do here and thank you for staying here and continuing to be a part of the Saraville Public Schools. At this point, we will move on to our next presentation, which is the budget timeline. You are all welcome to stay. However, if the budget is not something that excites you as much as your lesson plans do, by all means, you are also more than welcome to leave.
That's a good way to empty the place.
Talk about emptying a room, huh?
And just by way of introduction to the board, the Finance Committee met, and this was proposed by Dr. Labby, a slightly different version of how we're going to go about doing the budget this year. And Mr. DeAndrea will take us through that cycle and give the board just a highlight and an overview of that new process.
That's what Labby couple things. But it's going to be presentations every meeting. It's bad. No. Here.
I guess we'll get going.
Not my idea.
Fire away.
Fire away, that way we move it along. Before we look at the timeline, I just want the board to understand, you are still going to receive that 80-page document that details how the budget was developed and all. But under Dr. Labby's direction, we're going to do things a little bit different this year so that we get more input from the board and hopefully the community in presenting it in this way. What we will be doing from starting October 21st through sometime in May, we will have different directors, principals, and supervisors come before the board and more or less put together a presentation of their budget needs, but included in their budget needs are going to be the items to where they came from and where they're going. Somewhat of a look back and a look forward as to their budget and how they prepared it. So that what you see in front of you are the presentations and the individuals that will appear before the board. So some of the individuals will be presenting to the board way in advance of the board actually seeing true budget numbers and the final development. So this is a little bit different, not so much for those who sat on the Finance Committee. In the past, the Finance Committee, we would spend 8 to 14 hours together reviewing the whole budget. So this is somewhat going to be in that manner, the same way of preparing it, but we're not going to be doing it over a 2 or 3 day period. We're going to be doing it over a stretch of several board meetings so that all board members get to see the development of the budget in that regard. No need to go through the timelines. They're right there in front of you. So we'll start off October 21st with Dr. Labby giving his kickoff overview and starting off with debt service. Any questions from the board members?
Just, what is the date that the state usually comes out with their aid figures? Is that on there? Because I can't read that.
It usually comes out February 28th, 29th, somewhere around that, if I remember correctly. Late February. And then they usually give you a week or two to finalize your budget based on those figures. It's a concern the board had every year. And then, as normal, we're always looking at extraordinary aid numbers, and the day after we adopt the budget, we get the memo that the extraordinary aid numbers are out. So there are no specific timelines in that regard.
Is everyone okay with this process? It's basically the same process that the Finance Committee has used. It's simply now bringing it out to the public, involving the whole board, and it provides a greater degree of transparency to the public as the budget is constructed. Any issues, oppositions, questions? Thank you, Mr. DeAndrea.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to correspondence. We have the monthly technology and maintenance work order reports. And then we move on to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the August 19th and September 2nd minutes of the Board of Education?
So moved.
By Mr. McEnone, do I have a second?
Second.
By Mrs. DePinto. Any comments on the minutes? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Bauker.
Yes.
Mrs. Backo.
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom.
Yes.
Mr. Brzezinski. Yes. Mrs. DePinto.
Yes.
Mr. McEnone.
Yes.
Mrs. Trapp.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
And Mr. Syak.
Yes. Moving on to the Student Council Representatives Report. Ms. Tara Syak,
Hi. Oh, wait.
This is awkward for both of us, by the way.
Hello. Oh, it's on.
You got
it. We have a fundraiser for the ALS Foundation. Each class are active participants for donating to this cause. All classes have their own class water droplets, and they have different colors representing the class. The water droplets have different prices, which will have the student's name on it. And then later on, it will be raffled off, and whomever's name is called will get to pour the water over Mr. Brown. All the funds will go. I feel like I'm not talking right. I'm sorry. All funds will go to the ALS Foundation and is being supported by peer leadership. Our pep rally is coming up in October. Student council came up with the idea of Once Upon a Homecoming, which is based off Disney characters and movies. Every grade will be dressed in pink shirts, which we are selling in the upcoming weeks. The shirts are designed to bring awareness to breast cancer. Later on in the coming weeks, we're having cancer foundations, and this Thursday, the soccer program is having ovarian cancer night. And we're selling balloons for $1.50. Each balloon has different colors, so you can have, for each cancer awareness, you get to set them off later on in the day. And Guidance has established Naviance for all the students for easy college applications. That's
a
it.
very good report, Mr. Syak.
I thought it was as well.
Miss Syak, actually.
Thanks.
I think she gets the credit.
Well, that was just informative.
Any questions for our student council representative? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much. We'll move on to our parent involvement representative report. Mrs. Pabon.
We conducted our parent and PIC meeting on September 8th, and we were able to meet Dr. Labby, who gave a very enthusiastic introduction of his ideas and his plans for our future. I think it was Vision 2030 in a 3 to 5 year increment, because people were concerned like, hey, that seems far away. But in any event, he reassured everyone. I think he set a very high bar for himself to achieve all of his goals. So I think people were enthusiastic to his being here and the new energy that he's going to bring to our school district. And there was some complaints, not just good news, but complaints about the busing. People felt that, a 2-mile walk, some of the children are walking through areas that have no sidewalks, bad lighting, very early in the morning. So that was their concern. And Dr. Labby said he would, address that and possibly, not that he promised anything, but possibly look into maybe busing during winter months to alleviate people's concern with it being so dark. And Michelle Jenkins explained the food service and the importance of the calories and the nutrients and all that. And that was pretty much it. So we're off to a good start.
Okay.
Could I ask how many parents were at that meeting?
Actually, this was a fairly large turnout. I would say we had at least 20-something
Oh, that's good.
parents. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but
Right.
compared to how it dwindled,
Right.
it was a good improvement.
And I also want to thank you for volunteering to be the representative. We haven't had a PIC representative here from that group in a while, so we appreciate you.
I'll probably be the steady one because I'm also the treasurer at the UES Executive Board, so they need a PIC person, so I was picked to be the PIC, so I will be back.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mrs. Pabon? Okay, we will move on to the superintendent's report, and Dr. Labby, we can give your overview.
Vision 2030 Finance and Infrastructure. First of all, I want to note that we do have an addendum to that. You'll see in front of you, board members, and we left copies up there for the public, items 33 and 34. Item 33 is a lease purchase agreement with Middlesex County Youth Services Commission. And then item 34 is a buildings and grounds permit for the Lions Club. Okay? Among other motions, some of the most important ones you'll find on there is a contract with New Jersey Care. It's the Center for Autism Research. That's item number 15. And what I've done too is put the page number so you can see this on page 3. There's that. Also, the use of facilities parking lot fee. That's the first time we're doing that here in Sayreville, and that you can find on page 4. Contract with Staff Development Workshops. That's a company that we're going to use to continue instructing and training our teachers on writers' workshops. You can find that also on page 4. We have a motion to cap maximum cost for independent evaluations at $700 per evaluation. You can find that also on page 4. A long-term lease of the Morgan Athletic Fields with the borough on page 5. And transportation contract, several of the transportation contracts due to higher enrollment. You can find those on page 7. And finally, some out-of-district tuitions also on page 7. Any questions about?
Amidio, on page 5, number 19, I will be abstaining due to a conflict.
Thank you.
Moving on. Okay, Vision 2030 student achievement. We have several motions. First of all, we have a memorandum of understanding with Rider University, excuse my typo there, as well as a memorandum of understanding with Middlesex County Community College. We have our Model Program Initiative Grant. That's a grant that we are going to utilize to get professional development for a unit of study called Project Learning Tree. It's a green initiative that is also sponsored by EIRC. And we have our September HIV report on page 10. Moving on, any questions on Vision 2030 student achievement?
I have a question on the addendum. The Middlesex Regional, have we used them before as our financial advisor?
Several times.
Several times, and how do they charge us?
This one is free.
This one's free.
We like the effort.
I like that.
Any more questions on finance and infrastructure or student achievement? No? Vision 2030 governance, we have a memorandum of agreement with the Sayreville Police Department and the Middlesex County Prosecutor. You can find that on page 11. And we have a board resolution. If you remember our last meeting, the board directed our attorney to develop a resolution in reaction to the pilot program for the Chase Signature Housing Development. You can find that resolution on page 11. Any questions with regard to governance?
And if we need to discuss the resolution, we can do that in the second portion.
All right, good. Finally, moving on to Vision 2030 personnel. Items 1 through 7 on page 12, we have some non-certified resignations and leaves of absence. Item 9, I would ask our board members to please amend item 9 to include effective September 2nd. Once again, I'm asking our board members to make a friendly amendment to item number 9, and that would be to include effective September 2nd. Item number 11, on pages 13 through 15, we have our custodian, maintenance, grounds, stockroom salaries for the 14-15 school year. Item number 12, which can be found on page 16, we have additional non-certified substitutes, actually on page 15. Finally, for non-certified, we went ahead and revised the phone services technician stipend job description. That's on page 16. Moving along to our certified part of that part of the agenda, on items 15 through 17, we have some certified staff member resignations and leaves of absence. You can find that on page 16. We also have several certified staff workshops that we're asking you to approve on pages 16 and 17. Item number 27, we have the hiring of 7 certified staff members for either a permanent tenure track position or a long-term substitute position. Find them on pages 18 and 19. Item number 28, as we all know, we have been doing some revisions to our central administration staff. So we revised our business administrator, board secretary job description, as well as our assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction, and finally our assistant superintendent of human resources, operations, and compliance. Those motions can be found on page 19. And finally, we We have additional certified substitutes on pages 19 through 20. Any questions at all for Mission 23
I
personnel?
have a question. For the job description changes, the 4 job descriptions, could you highlight what some of the major changes were in them?
I did not do that, but I can certainly do that for you.
You're just looking for a,
Yeah, just like
An
what
overview.
you rewrote, did you rewrite
An o-
them?
yeah, not a
What did you
yellow,
do?
an
Right
overview.
now, yes, okay. Well, first of all, when I went ahead into the process, I found that we really only had one assistant superintendent job description. So we wanted to make a distinction between the assistant superintendent of human resources and operations in compliance with assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction. Very first thing we did was we took out all of the items not pertaining to curriculum and instruction. We separated those from that initial assistant superintendent job description, and we made that the assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction. Included in that particular job description is anything pertaining to curriculum, instruction, student attendance, the school calendar, and anything else related to the school day. One of the things that we kept in that job description, though, was the applying for and anything dealing with our NCLB grant. That's Title I, Title II, and Title III. Our free and reduced lunch count, which also pertains to the filing of our Title I grant. So we kept that in that job description. For our human resources assistant superintendent, basically we took anything pertaining to the operation of the personnel office, the hiring of new employees, the transferring of employees, the maintenance of a leave of absence list, and so forth. That person now will be totally responsible for those types of things. Also, with regard to the operations of building, making sure that we're operating our buildings, utilizing our resources in a way that is most efficient, but more importantly, compliant with state, federal, and local mandates, policies, regulations, and procedures. Finally, what we did was we did make some amendments to the board secretary business administrator because one of the things that I learned was the assistant superintendent was responsible for buildings and grounds permits. And we felt that buildings and grounds, finance and infrastructure, anything pertaining to that subject area should be the responsibility of the business administrator. So we took that out of the assistant superintendent of human resources job description and put that into the business administrator's job description. Those are the major differences between each.
All right, you have board secretary / business administrator. Is that how it always was, one job description for the two, or were there two separate ones?
Just one. And what I did, though, was if you read the responsibilities, I placed them in order. So the first several are related to being the board secretary. Anything below that pertains to the business administrator position. And then what I did, I included in each one of those job descriptions other responsibilities and other domains that they're focused on. Finally, one of the things that I've done was try to standardize our job descriptions. Our job descriptions in the past never, consisted of a title of the job. The qualifications necessary in terms of credentials didn't include those in our job description, so I included those elements. Finally, at the end of all of our job descriptions, it did not include when the board would formally adopt them. I think that's very important, particularly for CUSAC purposes, that it reflects when the Board of Education formally adopts these job descriptions or revisions of such.
Okay, and now that we have a human resources assistant superintendent, what about the area of health benefits? Is any of that going to transfer over into the human resources realm?
We thought about that, but we decided at this very moment to leave health benefits in the responsibility area of the business administrative board secretary.
And what about the phone job?
The phone services technician, basically we only made some small changes to that job description. However, we did make sure that we noted that person would report to now our chief technology officer, because we changed the title for that person, as well as our director of special projects technology. But for the most part, that job description remained the same. We felt it was important that we had that job description revised so that we can officially post that position and give anyone interested an opportunity to apply for it. You can look forward to probably the October 7th, more than likely the October 21st position.
I'm going to abstain on page 12, number 4. I'll be abstaining.
Okay, so we will now circle back and get any committee reports on each one of those sections. So we will start out with finance and infrastructure. Mr. Balco, do you have the committee report?
Yeah, we had another brief meeting. First thing we tackled was the cafeteria consulting service. They recommended a firm, and the committee agreed to hire them. I think it was like $2,000 in video. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, they're going to come in, evaluate all the aspects of the food services, give us recommendations on how we can improve our services, maybe save money and increase revenue
What's this for?
for the cafeteria services.
Don't hire me, I'll do it for nothing.
We've seen you
You gotta
cook.
follow the rules, rules and regulations.
Okay.
Then Then we moved over to infrastructure for a little while. We spent some time on this Silver School assessment, which you guys just got handed today, so we don't want to talk about too much yet, where the architects presented their, I guess, their recommendations for the building. A little issue on building cleanliness, but it was just a topic.
I'm sorry,
The
Mr.
building
No,
cleanliness item?
just that Mrs. Kaprowski said the building's opened up clean, and she actually sent personalized letters to every staff member.
And then, looks like we're going to be retrofitting our sign out front with a new amber sign for $13,750.
I thought it was fixed tonight. I saw something on it.
That's probably the banner for the
Yeah, that's
app,
a
isn't
manual
it?
banner.
Isn't that the man?
I
Yeah.
said they fixed the sign.
We went over the lease agreements for the Silver School Fields, which are on the agenda today. Went over the parking lot fees, which are on the agenda today. There was a comment about sand in front of the high school on the sidewalk there. I walked it yesterday and it's gone, so I guess our staff must have took care of that. A little bit about the budget development, which we saw a video present on, and just that right now, I guess the committees was just informed that we're going to keep with our courtesy busing, subscription busing plans as is, so. And the only thing that was brought up was, I guess we had another sewer backup at the middle school, and they were out there digging it up this past week, so. And the rest is all progress.
Okay. Just a couple notes on finance and infrastructure. I was also at that meeting with regard to the Slover School piece. As noted, the board got the report from the architect today. That report, basically at a high level, if you're looking at fixing the shell of that building, the windows, the plumbing, et cetera, you're looking at about a $5 million cost. But then to bring that building truly up to what we'll call parity of our other schools, you're probably looking at about another $5 million cost for a total of $10 million. And that additional cost would basically be associated with enlarging the gym and cafeteria, because that cafeteria there is exceptionally small. Putting an elevator in that building, because it is a 2-story building and it should have an elevator, and a whole bunch of other details that are in that report. The Finance Committee really started questioning whether we want to put that much money into a building that is that old, and that ultimately, even if we have preliminary cost adjustments, we don't know what's going to happen when we're going to start opening up walls in that building. So one of the thoughts that the Finance Committee had was, in the past, whenever we faced a major building situation such as this, whether it be the addition to Arlith, the high school, the middle school lease purchase that we did, or the upper elementary school, we've typically in the past convened a Blue Ribbon 5 committee, which consists of a cross-section of the board, some teachers, some parents, usually an architect, someone with some background in construction, to basically look at that scenario and make a recommendation to the board as to what they believe we should do, so that it's not only a small committee or the board themselves. We truly get buy-in from the community as to what the right answer is, given the sum of money that we're talking on, the different directions that we could go in. So I'm not looking for approval tonight for this. I believe we're going to have the architect in at our next meeting here for the full board. So the board themselves will have a chance to see the report, speak to the architect, get the full background. But just something the board may want to think about is authorizing me to appoint a committee such as that to look at this over the next few months and determine what do we want to do truly with that building, and is it in our best interest to actually pump money into it and try to bring it up to code. So again, it's just something for the board to think about, and we'll talk more about that on our October 7th meeting. Any questions on that piece?
If you don't put money into it, what's your other option?
The committee talked about a couple of options, including actually demolishing that building and rebuilding.
Not for 10 million, you're not.
Not for 10 million, but possibly for 15. I mean, that's what the architect was telling us. So again, the question is, do you want to put $10 million into a building to bring it on par, where you could get a new, larger building for 15 that's brand new?
Depends on the time frame, I guess.
Depends on the time frame, depends on what we think the community will support. And maybe there are other options that we can look at. I mean, the challenge that we have is we do have a facility there. So when you look at, any other options, it's kind of hard to ignore the fact that we've got a building there. But quite frankly, even if we were to look at a different option, I don't know what that would be, but if we were to look at a different option and to keep that as administrative offices, we would still need to put money into it, because the windows there are failing, and we're getting to a point where if we want to preserve that building, we're going to have to preserve the shell.
Was there any discussion on adding on to, say, Eisenhower, like another building? Or?
That was talked about. We didn't go into depth on it, but it was talked about. And the consideration there is if you do add on to, for example, an Eisenhower, now you're making a very large elementary school. Versus if you stick with Slover, it'll be it'll be larger than it was, when it was operational back as a Saraville school, but it won't be as large as an Eisenhower with an addition. I mean, you put a 10 classroom addition onto Eisenhower, you're talking probably another 250 kids to that building. I think that building has 400 or so, 551. There you go.
Mr. Aguilas has the number.
Thank you. So 551, 250, you're now at an 800-student elementary school. That's a relatively large elementary school.
If I could, Phyllis, what we also started to discuss was, does it make sense to look at the other elementary buildings and look at some of the needs of the other buildings and start developing an envelope so that it becomes a district approach, not just rebuilding Slover, but address some of the issues at Truman, Wilson, Eisenhower. I mean, really, the only buildings that we felt really didn't have issues were probably the upper elementary school and the high school at this point in time. But all the other buildings probably have projects that we've put off for several years, and maybe start bundling a bigger package to go out to the community with.
When we look at Slover and you come up and you say it's going to cost $10 million to bring them up to par, you have to also consider the amount of money we already put into it. How much money did we already put into it? The wireless, the classrooms we redid?
I can tell you the Univents were around $200,000. I don't know the cost for the wireless system.
But Emilio, didn't Dennis say some of that can be?
Well, the univentilators.
Yes,
can
the
be used in our-
univentilators we
pull
can
them out
scrap,
and-
the wireless system we can scrap. These are all things that we can start putting back in.
Not scrap, we can
I
salvage.
apologize. We salvage and put back into the building and use over the future of the district as we do other things. So it's not things that we put in that we would lose out on.
Either way, you'd have to go out on the ballot.
Yes.
Correct. And look, the option is still on the table of doing the limited scope. But just keep in mind, if you do the limited scope, you're making a conscious decision to invest in an older building that probably a couple years from now, you're going to look at going back, because you're going to have parents then saying, well, wait a minute, it doesn't have the same physical education facilities, doesn't have the same media center facilities that the other buildings have.
But we're always going to have that issue. We have that
Correct.
disparity right now with the current buildings, and we would have to get every elementary school up to the specs of the UES. Can't do that. And we have to be practical and work with the framework that we have. That's a certified school right now, correct?
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
it's still
And we
listed
can
as
put
a
students in there.
Excuse me?
And we can have students in an elementary grades in that building.
My understanding is yes.
I think also it was to get it up $10 million to make it new, and if our vision is Vision 2030, then why not go ahead and look at what it would be to have a Vision 2030 going forward to have a brand-new school. Because when the architect comes in and you hear everything that needs to be done and all the problems that are with that school right now, we're gonna have to make a decision. But, you know, we just kept in mind Vision 2030, and just to have what the architect is telling us is wrong with it, it didn't balance.
I think there's a difference there, to me, in my mind, between the $10 and $15 million. And we've built enough in this school district to know that if an architect comes with an estimate for a current building, that's not going to be the same. Okay, remember we went out and for a second ballot question for another $2.5 million to finish this building?
Correct.
Okay, so that's always the concern you have when you start this new construction. Because of the timeline and the way the system works, you come up with an architectural design, then the board discusses, it goes out to a vote, you get the money, and then 3 years later, you're actually building the building, and the cost of things change.
Also, keep in mind, this
And
was...
then we're committed.
This was not new construction. This was a very complicated project, which was very different than what you'd be doing if you were doing truly new
If you
construction. But
recall,
you're right.
I was personally
There is
involved in
still-
that.
Oh, yeah.
I
but-
understand.
But you're right, there is still a risk. And that's why I think, too, that the community involvement piece in a decision such as this
I agree with
is
the
important.
I agree with the Blue Ribbon Panel. I sat on the Monmouth High School as a surveyor.
Yep.
My point is that, you know, to me, what's more important in any educational environment is who's standing in front of the chalkboard, not necessarily what color paint's on the wall and how new the windows are. You know, and if we can
Well,
do something for $5
Mike,
million
if you look at,
less,
if you,
know.
when you go home tonight, look through that report and see, he really did a good
I
job.
saw
Yeah.
He broke it into 3 pieces, level 1, level 2, level 3.
Listen.
The damage to that building that has been neglected over the years, and this is exactly what you're saying. He's saying right now, 10 million to fix it. But once they go into those walls and they find water infiltration, and he said there's wood beaming
Oh, and there's
in the
asbestos
in the
throughout that
roof,
building, too, I'm
and there's
sure.
asbestos. So all of these things are going to be, you know, stuff that we're going to have to come to as we go. So,
Right, so it wasn't
again,
the
do you want to
color
put
paint,
10
it was
million
safety.
into a building that's falling down, or have a brand-new one for 15? You know, again, you have to look, yeah, we all kind of figured 15 was a low
Okay,
ball.
but I will, you know, on the record tonight saying that we're going to be spending more than $15 million.
Oh, absolutely.
to
Yeah,
look
we
more like
didn't have a
$25
doubt that we would.
Okay.
Does this report account for the growth, for, say, the Point, or, like, is it
No,
just?
this
This is just
report is
structural.
strictly an assessment of the Salover School and the conditions. It has nothing to do,
It's structural.
Yeah, there's no demography. This is purely the building itself.
Just the
The
building.
board's last direction was we wanted to bring that school online. That report is the cost to bring that school online.
Right, but this is just but you keep talking about 2030, 2030. Is this a long range, this isn't a long-range
no.
plan?
And I think that's why, when we discussed it at the committee meeting, to start bringing together a Blue Ribbon 5, and that's where it started to look. Now, do we look at, is 20,000 square feet additional at Salover sufficient to meet some growth that's going on? How does that impact the rest of the school district when we start opening up another building with the potential of having 500 students? How much relief does that give to Truman, Olive, Eisenhower, and Wilson? Does that help us meet the goals in moving forward? And Dr. Labby even pointed out, we have a vision of 2030 to educate kids. Well, we can't educate kids in the year 2030 with buildings built in the 1940s. It just, your two things don't match. So you have to have your capital or your investment now in your capital to meet the needs of educating those students in the year 2030. So we were looking at just, the Salover assessment was, I guess, the shock that came through with the dollar value, which led to the discussion of all those other items. So that's why 15 million is probably low, because 50,000 square feet may not be sufficient if you start looking at the Point, if you start looking at Lemare and those other developments. So it needs to be an ongoing conversation. And again, as I said earlier, now you start looking at your other buildings that may need some items that need to be improved upon to bring them up to a better quality than what they currently are. So you start looking at a bigger envelope.
But the Point and the continued construction of Lemire is one thing, but we need that school now. Even if those things were not going to happen, we need that capacity now to get down to a class size that we think is nominal. And we're not there. And the Point and the continued development of Lemire just complicates things. What I don't want to do is wind up having Blue Ribbon, which I agree with, the Blue Campus, but we have a tendency sometimes to study things to death. And then all of a sudden, we have classes with 40 kids in there, and people are saying, They knew the point was being developed, and we don't have this building yet. And that's what I'm looking at, is an existing shell is going to take a lot less time to modify that than it is to knock it down and build another building. That's just my point. I think it's a matter of time, because that point starts going, you're looking at 2,000 units. And what's going to happen? You know, and that's why we're being proactive now, I think. I think we're behind the power curve already, to tell you the truth. And that's why we've been dumping a little money into that school as we can, you know, the reserve and all that kind of things. But to knock that down, build another building, I think we have a time problem. And I think that's another issue.
And the committee discussed that piece
And we
as well.
did discuss that, and the architect did send something through to me that Dr. Labby and I will sit down and review. But based on where we are today and the timelines that were presented, we're probably looking at a referendum vote, maybe, if we're lucky, September of 15, I think it said September of 15, so almost a year from now. And that's assuming we move at a good pace to get through committee, the board, and all that, because there are very specific timelines you have to meet, requirements for preliminary schematic drawings approval, then the cost estimates, bond counsel, and things of that nature all have to fall into
And
line.
therein lies my problem, you know, is that when let's assume it gets voted, because in this town, we have approved referendums for construction. I think everybody understands this need. If it does pass, you know, you're still looking at another 3 years before you even start building this thing. Okay, and then a lot of things change.
And then if
Absolutely.
it doesn't,
The commodities,
Is
you
there
know,
a
what
plan
happened
B?
here.
What
the
if
cost
it
of
doesn't
steel and
pass?
com-
yeah.
Yeah, and
If it
if it
doesn't
does,
pass,
we-
well,
then what?
well,
and that's part of why the,
well, we don't have the money anyway, so.
right, you don't have the money either way to do what you need to do. Capital reserve is down to, I believe, 1.3 now. And
Well, I
then once
remember
we,
when we had discussed, one of the things on the table, somebody here had asked about knocking the building down and putting up a new one. And you had a number, if I recall, was like 30 million or so. It was a very large number, and then we just said, oh, forget that, we
Right,
can't
and-
afford it.
and again-
But now you're coming, now 15 just seems
15, but that
so
doesn't give
low.
you, it doesn't seem to give you the things that you were that you may want in the whole building. We're not sure. It was a straight $250 to $275 a square foot times 50.
Now.
Now, yes, now.
Remember what it
Right.
cost to add this addition?
Yes, I
Like
recall.
48 million, wasn't it?
I recall, so, you know, and again, once you start developing that envelope of what you want in that building, do you want it to house 500 kids? Do you want it to house 300 kids? What type of technology do you want it? We spoke about, do we want to start moving towards air conditioning our buildings? Do we start solar paneling our buildings to become energy efficient? All those things start to add on to the price tag as
There's
you
another
move
factor
forward.
that we need to consider that may be a help to us, is that with the redevelopment plan that the borough has with Sarah, that's building the point, includes a $19 million payment to the school board. Okay? In theory.
In theory.
Theory.
Speaking
There's a
which,
lot of developers out there with
How
that
are we
on.
doing at getting them in for a presentation?
I've spoken to him twice, Mr. Syak.
I tried once when I was in there, they're not interested.
I spoke to, I believe, a gentleman, Mr. Ambrosio, twice, but I left it on him to give me timelines for him to come in, but I haven't heard back.
I'll ask them.
You'll have to send another resolution to the council.
Just one more question. Since if it is a time constraint, was there any thought, since you think that would make Eisenhower too big to look at, and you want to, like, try to get the other elementaries on par with each other, was there any thought to look at maybe the other schools, like, say, Wilson, since it's smaller, and since Truman needs work, to maybe just add on to those two, would it be more cost-effective?
Again, those are all
And would be
things,
quicker?
those are all things that we thought that when you come back to the Blue Ribbon Committee, you start looking at those things. Wilson, you can only really build out into the parking lot, and how you would build onto that would be, you know, something that you would have to look at your architect. Truman School, it would probably be real tough because there's limited space behind that building, and maybe you can go to the, if you're standing in front of it, to the left, but some of those fields are property of the borough, not ours, so you have to work out those logistics. So we did discuss those, and again, 4 of us sitting, we bounced around things, and that's why we thought it'd be best to start putting together a committee of the community and start saying, you know, what is really needed. I do know, like, Wilson School cafeteria, it's been a concern how small it is. Does it make sense to build out to the right of it so that you build a bigger cafeteria and maybe add classroom space there because you have that large playground area. You know, those things become logistics as to how much you want to do and how aesthetically appealing it looks when you build on like that.
Even what Mrs. Bacco suggested, if you add it on to each end of the school, you still have Slover. We're not giving up Slover, we're not gonna give it away, so we have to still put money into that building to make it habitable.
Right, again.
I mean, that's always gonna be there. It's not
What
going
dollar
away.
value, and believe it or not, the one thing that, whatever you do, if you do something with Salover, where are you going to put the administrative offices?
Right, well, that was the thing, that's why I said if you
That's
wanted
a
to
whole
add
nother
something,
issue.
You still need space for the
Yeah.
administrative offices.
So you still, and again, we spoke about that, do you build something, if you build a brand-new building at Salover, do you build something for the administrative offices, and we still stay on that property, but maybe remotely?
Well, that was my thought, are we going out to the voters, ask for 15 million to make nice offices, so, I mean.
That we're not.
Okay.
And like I said, the committee, we're not at the point where we've decided what we're going out to the voters for, and a lot of the questions that are being asked are very good questions. I think that the first question the board's got to decide, once they read the report, once they hear from the architect, is this something that we want to drive as a board, or is this something that we want a community panel to look at? Because I think if you get a community, whether you do it as a board or you get a community panel together, all of these types of questions that we're asking now will come out, and we can go and get answers and dive a little deeper into each one.
Well, I'm all for the community panel because it adds credibility to it. When you go out and ask for a referendum to vote, you know, it's just not us making this decision. You have people from the community, you pick people who, from all different, you know, people that are involved in the community, people that are with the school, they're not with the school, different demographics in the community.
And I think you get a sense of what will work and what won't. Because ultimately, it's the community's facility. So that's where we're at. Like I said, the architect will be in. Just give some thought about how you want to approach this, whether you want to go with a committee or from the board perspective. Any other questions?
I think the committee's a good idea.
Okay, Mr. DeAndrea, just back on the regular finance agenda, I need to abstain on the bill list for Premier Printing. Okay. After that one, we will move on to Vision 2030 Student Achievement. Mrs. Bloom, is there any committee report?
No, we met and gave a report at the last meeting. Nothing new unless we have a great overflow of kindergarten enrollments. Anything new there, Ms. Shedya? No. Okay.
Actually, kindergarten enrollment is still down by a whole class, I think, 25?
No, it's down, I believe, by,
40-something?
no, I think
No?
40,
44?
44, I believe. So 42 or 44 down kindergarten enrollment from the previous year.
Okay,
That was as of last week. I don't know what it is this week.
got it. Okay, any questions on student achievement? Okay, hearing none. Governance, there is no committee report, but the resolution for the pilot program is there. Anyone have any issues with the pilot program resolution?
Written well.
Just a question with the process. After tonight, what's the process? You mail it tomorrow, or?
Based on all the confusion that occurred, I purposely did not send anything over to the borough mayor and council. I will send it over tomorrow to them so that they can review it and make any comments, but it's basically the same contract that was in place the last time.
No, I'm talking about the resolution.
The resolution.
He's talking about the resolution, right?
Oh, I'm
Pilot.
sorry, the
Pilot.
pilot, I'm
Yeah,
pilot.
he's talking about the
Same
lease.
thing, and it will be drafted and sent over to borough
You have a
clerk.
suggestion?
Mrs. Bacco, you could bring it there and read it to them.
I might do that anyway.
That'd be fun. Be good TV.
Also, the Suburban called me on this as well, and I just reiterated the points in the resolution that were there in terms of the board's position, and I indicated that that was subject to board approval this evening. Okay. Finishing up with governance, we'll move on to Vision 2030 personnel. Mr. Walsh, is there a committee report?
No committee report. We didn't meet this week.
Okay. Any questions on personnel? Okay. And then the Vision 2030 Finance and Infrastructure, the addendum is there. I don't know if I just want to make sure everybody saw it with the lease purchase agreement. Any questions on that? Okay. Hearing none, we'll open up to public participation on agenda items only. If you wish to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Okay, hearing none, we'll close public, and I will take a motion to approve the superintendent's report in its entirety. By Mrs. DePinto, do I have a second?
Second.
By Mrs. Bloom. Anyone's abstentions or opposition will be noted. Any comments? Hearing none, roll call, Mr. DeAndrea.
Mr. Balka?
Yes.
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes, except for the abstention.
Mr. McEnroe?
Yes, with comment, Dr. Labby, I like this new approach to how we do this. So, yes.
Mrs. Trapp?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Syan?
Yes. Delegate to the New Jersey School Boards Association, the Delegates Assembly is scheduled for November. I've already registered, so I will be there for that. Also, there's significant conversation in terms of testimony being given and conversation amongst the legislature regarding the superintendent's salary caps, which are sunsetting. I got your attention, apparently. There's still no clear direction on where that's going in terms of whether or not the governor would, consider any type of adjustments to that or, re-up the law, et cetera. But they are taking testimony and input at this time. Mrs. Bloom, I know you also attended your first meeting as an alternate of the NJSBA Board of Directors. Is there anything that you want to share with that?
It was just really nice to meet all the people. They're looking for a compilation of best practices. What they want to do, like statewide, is get all districts to contribute some of their best practices so they can have almost like an encyclopedia online where you can go and check, see what district does something that's really outstanding that you may want to borrow. So we're going to have to think up some of our really good best practices and turn them on over. Someone did come up with having a student council person. I said, we have that already. We've had that forever. They thought that was a good idea to have the students involved so that they could see how the board works and the students know how it goes. But yeah, there was a lot of discussion on that, so that was really good.
Not every district does that?
No.
No, believe it or not, no.
No. It's interesting, but no, they don't. But yeah, so we'll have to come up with some of our best practices so that next time, because I'm going again next month, I'm an alternate, but the regular delegate can't make September and October, so. Although I think it's the same night as homecoming, so I don't know.
Gotcha.
We'll have to see.
Who is the regular delegate, do you know?
Dave, who, I forgot his last name.
Okay.
Dave?
No, he's not from
No,
here.
no,
No,
no.
he's from another
So-
Middlesex County district. Okay.
But they swore me in and everything, so I'm legitimate.
He swore you in at the first meeting, and they'll swear at you from
Yes,
there,
I
that
swear.
point forward. All right, there was nothing listed on the agenda for the district highlights, so under special committee reports, Mrs. DePinto, if you would just give a summary of the district highlights.
Kindergarten orientation was held on September 3rd and was a great success. Over 250 students, parents, and siblings were on site to share the experience. Parents were given the opportunity to learn more about Arleth Elementary School, meet the other teachers that their children will learn from, and ask questions that they may have regarding the kindergarten experience at Arleth. What's new at Eisenhower School? The students will begin using the computers in the Media Center starting the week of September 15th. One notable difference in the Media Center will be the brand-new flat-screen monitors, which replace the old monitors. These new monitors will provide more space for students to work, better display of digital and audio materials, environmentally and economically better for the school as they reduce the amount of heat given off, providing for a cooler learning environment. Because they are cooler, they require the air conditioner to be utilized less. They also are more energy efficient, reducing our energy consumption and energy costs. With the school theme Truman Team, Together Everyone Achieves More, the Truman Elementary School will hold a threefold focus each month that will concentrate on a specific content area of the curriculum, along with a character education, trait, and community service project when possible. This year, Ms. Linda Coffey, principal, will be sponsoring a walk on the well side called Walk with the Principal, which will take place twice a month on a Friday at 2:30 p.m. This year, Wilson Elementary School has started a Coach to Grow program, C2G, which encourages teachers not to work in isolation. Teachers are offered more opportunities to collaborate with each other, share ideas, and sharpen their professional tools in and out of the classroom. Learning from each other and working together as a team cultivates and exhibits the characteristics of a high-performing school. This is a wonderful way to develop oneself as a leader of learning. Sansville Upper Elementary School staff members and students are happy to be back with a wonderful opening. We are excited to embark on this new year together. We are eager to get to know our staff members and reconnect with returning staff members.
We would like to thank all of our custodians who worked very hard this summer to prepare for our opening. The building looked beautiful as the students and staff returned. We would also like to thank our secretaries who worked tirelessly over the summer to ensure that all the proper paperwork was submitted and verified for students enrolled. On September 9th, the Sayreville Middle School kicked off our School Spirit Pennant initiative with the following announcement made over the PA. We are excited to start our 5th year of the school-wide School Spirit Pennant Initiative. It has continued to illuminate and promote the individual development of positive attitudes, skills, knowledge, and responsible behavior. Displayed in the front hallway are the newest additions to the School Spirit Pennant program: a Leading by Example t-shirt and a Random Act of Kindness t-shirt. Like the stickers, you have to earn them. Any student earns 3 Leading by Example stickers or 4 Random Act of Kindness stickers will be issued a t-shirt. Large posters which define how each sticker is earned are visible throughout the building. Homeroom teachers are asked to please review the sticker award sheet with your class and display it in the classroom. Good luck to one and all. High school, we have an app for that. Sayreville War Memorial High School has a new program that provides parents, students, teachers, and the community valuable school information at their fingertips, literally. The Sayreville War Memorial High School app gives access to school calendars, news, resources, and grades, as well as up-to-date information from school administrators. It also features a silent notification that allows school administrators to send out an alert to emergency services personnel and teachers in the event of a crisis. The app provides various school information, including the student's code of conduct and handbook, a staff directory, and school news. Our vision is that our daily news shows, which the kids watch in homeroom, will be available for both the kids and parents to see. Each of the departments will eventually have a button on the app, as well as a variety of clubs. Information can go out in a blast regarding fundraisers, special meetings, etc. They believe it will absolutely increase communication between home and school community.
Thank you, Mrs. DePinto.
Just want to add about this Sayreville app. I mean, this thing is awesome. I don't know if everybody's downloaded it or not, but I was talking to Mr. Brown at the football game Friday, and I was telling him about, the blast I got and what a tool this is. And he started to show me, every time I get on it, it changes. I mean, there's something else added to it. And if you're a parent that have a student in high school, you need to have this app, because you can go into the settings and configure it, and it's basically an iOS format where you can get an alert if your kid's grade drops below a certain point, and you can configure what it is. We want it to be an 80, we want it to be a 90, or if my kid had 100, they drop below 100, you get a push. And I mean, I think that's a great tool to have if you want to get involved, and I think we're getting into an age now where parents can't say, I didn't know about that. I mean, that technology is there, and I think it's not only, I think it's compatible with the Galaxies too, isn't it, Mr. Glockmalloy? It's not just iPhone, is it? You can download it to any mobile device, right? Okay. Can you? Okay. And Mr. Nosman, you talk about best practices. I don't know of any other high school, another known district, that has something like this.
Eva mentioned it. One of the ladies mentioned it. She says, we just heard that Sayreville has an app.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, we do.
And it's a great thing for the students now.
There's a best practice.
If they get caught with their phone out, they can just say, hey, I was just checking the app. So it works both ways, right? So
Thank you.
it's a good thing.
Thank you, Mr. McEnroe. Okay, that concludes the district highlights. Is there any other discussion items? Are there any other discussion items? All right, hearing none, I will open it up to public for any item concerning the district. If you wish to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Hi.
Hello. Lorraine Panay, 21 Van Loan Avenue, Sayreville, New Jersey. My concern is, tonight why I'm here, is I just wanted to express concern about the FBLA and DECA programs kind of phasing out. So I just wanted to talk first as a taxpayer that these programs actually help our community, help our school, makes our community look better, because we offer more programs, not only sports. And secondly, I'm not a good speaker.
You're doing fine.
Secondly, as a parent, so I have 3 children that one has graduated in 2011. He was in DECA. I have a high school student senior. He's not in DECA, not in FBLA, and I have a seventh grader. So I just wanted to kind of express how much this program has helped my older son. He was the vice president of DECA. He got to go to the international convention. He's graduated from Full Sail University, and he's kept in touch with the CEOs and the people. They, mentored him. So it really helped him in the business world. And I just wanted to express that these programs are, I'm a DECA judge, so I got involved in a couple of years ago. And I've seen Sayreville kids come in before me, and the first year they're so nervous. The second year they're so full of confidence. So I'm really concerned that this program is just not going to be offered here.
All right, first of all, I want to thank you for bringing this up. I, too, am a product of the co-op program. I didn't do DECA. I was actually cooperative business education. I'm still employed today in the same job, not the same job, but the same company that I initially started with. So the program is phenomenal. I know that Mrs. Hall retired last year, and we have a new teacher who's in charge of the academic portion of the program. We haven't made any changes with regard to FBLA or the DECA, the co-curricular portion of the program, correct? All right, so if you could give Dr. Labby your name after the meeting, which will be over in a few minutes, and then we can follow up, because as far as we're concerned, there's not supposed to be any change with regard to that program. It's certainly not going away, at least as far as we're aware of.
Okay, and my concern is that, I kind of heard that it was going away, that it was being kind of phased out. It could be funding, from a parent view, we can help with, we can do fundraising for students, but I can't help anything with the teachers to, for them to be there after school. So I know that may be a problem. I know that was a problem.
It should not be funding because the board hasn't cut the budget. It's not a program we've cut. So it may just be a logistical issue we need to look into.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. McEnroe?
I know DECA and FBLA has a reputation from Sayville. I was a DECA judge at the county regionals last year, and Sayville did quite well. And everybody, especially the FBLA and DECA program, the DECA, which is Distributive Education Club of America, we fund those. And both of those advisors paid, Ms. Doctor? No. Do you know they're not? Okay. No. But I know that we funded people every year going to basically the national, and we're one of the districts that fund the winners. A lot of districts don't even fund the travel.
I'm usually here asking for the
they don't even fund the travel. That's You have to raise that money yourself. So I know we've always funded those programs.
I'm not sure if it's the students, because we can always do a good job of fundraising to send a student there. But I think it's getting the help, at the school to, I'm not, from what I hear, and I don't know, but I don't think these teachers are funded, they don't get paid for their time. This is all volunteer work. So I'm not, and that's my understanding. But, I did hear this year that FBLA was going away, and I was kind of concerned. And I did hear, like DECA last year from some students, I hear from the other side, because if I can help fundraise for it, I work for a big organization, a lot of times they give me hours to go help, so I'll help. Or if I can do a fundraiser and donate the money, I will. However, I just, it's a concern for me. So, and like I said, I have no children in there, but I just think that as a taxpayer, it looks, these are the programs the academic programs that you want in your schools. And as a parent, I have another one coming up through the ranks. He's in 7th grade. I really think that these are the important ones that prepare you for your business world.
Okay. Dr. Labby, you have a...
Yeah, I just want to add that I actually had a great conversation with Mrs. Berman, who runs our DECA club, just this week. And she's extremely enthusiastic and looking forward to this year. Some concern was expressed with regard to some of the matters brought to your attention tonight, and I was going to discuss those during our next Personnel Committee meeting.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing this up. We appreciate it. Anyone else for public? Okay. Hearing none, we'll close public at this time. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Our next meeting is on Tuesday, October 7th. I believe that will also be our State of the Schools address as well, Dr. Labby?
Yes, we're looking forward to it.
And we'll also have the architect here, and then the meeting after that is Tuesday, October 21. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Send me the slide.
So moved.
By Mrs. DePinto, second by Mrs. Bloom. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.